Hello, everybody, and welcome to the October 29th OpenCrowbar Community Design Meeting. We've got, wow, a pretty full agenda, and we're starting a little bit late, so we can jump right into it. But we're going to demo Chef Metal. We'll talk about the latest BIOS code. We've been doing a whole bunch of screen tweaks. We can talk about that. And then I think the real meat here is going to be packaging ease of deployment. But a lot of the other stuff is more updatey. So let me jump to Chef Metal demo briefly. Cool. And sorry, I'm sort of maximizing screen real estate. All right, as much real estate as we're going to get on that. Darn, it's enough. So here's what I've got going. I've got a 4-node crowbar cluster. 4 of the nodes already came up and were deferred and went Sledgehammer. So 2 of them I've already done the demo on. 2 of them I have pending. And the way Chef Metal works is it takes nodes from the system deployment and it creates an alias for them, and then it throws them into the ready deployment and sets the operating system to install. So for this first one, it sets it to CentOS 6.5. Second one, it'll set it to CentOS 7, and then all the nodes are already in a Chef server, so I'm not going to see much change in that. The other thing that's significant is that it also marks the nodes reserved. So once Chef Metal has gone through and done its thing, it tells Crowbar to stop messing with the node by marking it as reserved. And when you delete them out of Chef Metal, which you can also do, it will unreserve them and give them back over to Crowbar. So in the first pass, I didn't have the ready deployment. I actually created the ready deployment and did all that work. So with all that set up, I'm in the Chef Metal cookbook. And basically what I've done is there's a Chef Metal gem. I can show you behind the scenes. This is my clone of the Chef repo. I'm making some notes to improve to tell people to use Ruby 9. And then there's a really simple script that I've already run here that basically builds the Chef Metal crowbar gem and installs it. And then from there, I'm running Chef Client, which I will show you. So all I'm going to do is just run Chef Client. I'm running it in zero mode, and I'm running it with debug, so I get a lot of outputs. But what it's literally doing here is communicating with our server. Let me bring that up background. And it's going to go through and move. You can see those just changed into so it actually did that the servers are in to-do state now. If I go back to the system deployment, you'll see I update the DHCP record. Now it's going in and building the server. The way the script is done, it can be parallelized. Our demo script just does things one at a time. So one Chef Metal server, and it's literally over here somewhere. I've got a server that's being rebooted. These are all my KVM instances. I'm going to reboot that KVM instance and bring up the install. Just a second. So I'm going to go through just a normal crowbar deployment. You'll see it's already named it. It's already put it in the ready deployment. And then it's just going to set up the operating system that I've asked for. It's ready. I'm going to install CentOS 6 on that. If I want to drill what the Chef cookbook looks like, that's pretty straightforward. So this cookbook I'm running is this generic app recipe, crowbar test, and what all it's doing is saying, hey, I need one server. Like that, but it's building. This is the machine. It's telling you want CentOS 6.5, and this is the code in Chef Metal to create a machine. So chef metal driver turns that request into an actual server deployment. And then it runs the same thing again using another chef metal server, this time setting the OS to CentOS 6.7. So about super simple chef code, just basically goes and says build a cluster or two one node clusters. Chef, and then Crowbar goes and runs behind the scenes to actually build those machines, install the SSH keys, the critical, and turn it over to Chef so it can manage it, which is exactly what's going on in the background here. All right, that's it. Let's see. We can check back in later, but it's just going to go through the process of bringing these systems up and installing the progress, just exactly what Crowbar does. Let me see. I'll see if I can actually find the one. There it is. Probably this one. Got to grab the right corner. So this is actually where it's doing the install. Makes it more exciting when actually watching installing Cent. And it's once it completes this node, chefs keep running it. It's going to do that on the second node. If I had a two server cluster, which I'd probably do in the future demo, it would do it in parallel because it's smart enough to do that. And then it blocks until it's completed building the cluster. And that's the Chef Metal demo.
Very cool.
This is one of those great operational demos where it's a command line prompt that does a whole bunch of stuff in the background. And if it wasn't for the actual near viewpoint, you'd just completely opaque that it was doing anything until it emerged out of the tunnel of operations on the other side. Questions? Concerns? Excitement?
Looks cool.
Yeah.
If the use case to me is pretty clear. If I was building, actually the Juno use is a really good case, right? So say I wanted to do deployments of OpenStack Juno and I wanted to build a 6-node cluster. Right now, well, I guess it's all PackStack kicked off. If you had the equivalent for Chef, you could build a 6-node cluster using this, and then Chef would then go in and install and do the installs like behind the scenes, take care of all that work like Chef normally does, and then at the end of the run, you could tear down the cluster and be recovered, and then you could go into a test cycle. So if you're doing tests against metal, as opposed to MEMS, this would be a really effective way to cycle through the deployments. Or if you were going to do a fresh deployment of something, and you guarantee the system would come up exactly the way you expected, start to finish. The reason I'm pausing is that in some cases you would be just as well off to use Crowbar to interface with the metal because we'd help normalize the networking, which Chef doesn't help you do. But that is a conversation for a future day. But I'm planning to basically can this as a demo and then upload a video, assuming I have time, next day and a half before I leave for Paris. Other items on this? Good. Sweet. All right. It's like candy, demos are. I'm going to leave it in the background. If something happens, I can show you.
So, Rob, one thing
Yep.
I saw in the changes flew by, you killed Scaffold?
I didn't kill it. I just moved it to the Edge UI.
Okay. It's all right. I never used it anyways.
You were the holdout.
No, I never used it. I always thought you were the one who used it.
No, I'm very happy then to have it moved.
I want to see what's in the database. I just talk to the database. I don't screw around going through the web UI.
Every once in a while, I find it's handy, so I like it under the Edge UI flag. But I'm very happy for it to not be a normal part of the UI.
Yeah.
But I did fix. I don't know how it happened, but there was a ton of junk code about building scaffolds in the menu. I don't think that was my code because I take out my puts when I'm done. So yay, remove dead code. You like the new bug? Speaking since this is actually you like the. I wanted to call this a bug. Hold on. I guess flip back to my dev screen. Woo. So, then I got to find my mouse. So things that I tweaked in was this little anneal snapshot. What I ended up calling heartbeat, I would have called it a bug, except that'd be confusing. So as the system runs every second and a half, this will make a quick rest call to tell you how many nodes are in ready, process, or error state. And you get very fast feedback if something breaks, no matter what screen you're on.
Okay.
Ooh, it just changed. What I'm hoping is that Meshiest will do more Ajax work, and then we'll get rid of the screen refreshes on these pages. So if you're on the nodes page, it's actually pretty slick. Because this nodes page has a refresh, and then there's no flicker from a reset. You can see the annealer operating in the background. You get some status updates here, but there's no actual page refresh. So
good.
It occurred to me from watching some of the demos that I've seen that we kept flipping back to the deployments page just to see if things had finished the flow of the demo. And now you can just watch it and get that feedback. So, Greg, do you think that'll help you from a demo perspective?
Maybe. I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll see.
It just I like knowing when things are done baking. It's like the oven timer. That's what I should call it. Like the turkey timer. That's so much better than heartbeat, isn't it? It alliterates. All right, I'll take my market hat off and turn us back to technical content because I know we want to call something turkey timer.
No.
Shoot. Okay. Well. Hey, it finished, and now it's back. Oh, sorry, you can't see my screen. All right, so we covered screen tweaks. I've been just trying to clean up. We talked about the menus changing. I've been finding a couple of bugs as I go through, and some of these things are just super quick for me to clean up and get done. Thank you for doing the polls quickly.
Yep.
All right, Victor, BIOS code.
Yep, it's there. If you are deploying the system on a test R7 or on any of the PowerEdge R series, the 12 gen gear, or on the T320 or the T420 if you have one, it should just work.
That's awesome.
Yep. Right now, it only handles BIOS settings. It doesn't handle on the WSMAN side any hardware specific settings. So it doesn't do try to provide a WSMAN interface to the RAID controllers or anything like that.
Okay. That makes sense because we don't really need it right now. We're using the Mega CLI tools.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I also threw in some settings that'll let you easily tweak things to turn virtualization on and off and booting into UEFI mode on and off.
Ooh.
They are available as if you have a system where it has with the BIOS, you can go in and before you propose it, you can pick what configuration option you want to use. Right now, the only ones are default, UEFI, and virtualization. But the UEFI and virtualization
that's from attributes?
inherit. Yeah.
Okay.
The UEFI and virtualization ones inherit all the settings from the default set, and they are composable. So you can do both UEFI and virtualization, or just UEFI or virtualization, or just default.
What's the default for UEFI?
There is no. When I say UEFI, if you have that in the list of BIOS settings to apply, it turns UEFI mode on. Otherwise, it just leaves it in BIOS mode.
Okay. Well, yes, can't do UEFI.
Well, if you can pull up the code, I can show you how it works.
Okay, good. You got to point me to the
OpenCrowbar/hardware.
Oh, of course.
And then you're still in, yeah, there you go.
It's just
and then
slow.
BIOS. And then role provided, yeah, that one.
Whoops.
Yeah, the role provided one.
Oh.
The role template.json. Oh, no, that's not, never mind. Back out of there. Sorry. Pointed you at the wrong thing.
No worries.
Go back to BIOS. And then go to no op. No op roles, BIOS discover.
Oh, I see it.
In alphabetic.
That would make sense if it's in alphabetical order. I like that they have that quick nav so you can go deep really fast in there. I'm just not used to it yet.
Yeah. So the way it works is you've got at the top of that JSON, you've got the little structure match thing that tells you what settings this particular set of BIOS attributes applies to. What role should be bound into the node role graph to make it do its thing, and the available configurations for the BIOS.
Yeah, and that's a named set of different types of configs that you might want.
Oh, so there's default.
Yeah.
So you can actually create your own a new set and then push that. That's awesome.
Yep. And because it's handled through the roles, that you can create new sets using the usual, global versus deployment versus node-specific overrides in the attributes.
Holy mackerel. Okay, so these are actually repeatable machine configuration templates that you can replicate across multiple servers just by putting them in the correct deployment.
Yep.
That's like a critical killer feature. Holy. Wow. Nice work. I totally not. Oh, so that's
just really good.
Like, wow.
That's why I implemented attribute overriding the way I did.
Holy
and
mackerel.
The inheritance model.
Yeah. Because all you need is does the top level just take a config name somewhere?
In that other role, or in that other role template that I was showing you?
Yeah.
Pretty much how that shows up in the UI is just a list of config names that you can type in. And
right.
The always
default,
at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then you type in the other ones you want, and the system will compose them together into a single set of attributes that the BIOS will take.
Yeah. Do you have to put like UEFI and default, or does UEFI imply default?
If you, I think Rob switched away from that.
Sorry.
I saw that it inherits, right, or has a parent.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you just put in UFI, that implies default. So grab all the settings from default and then override settings from default with whatever is in the UFI config block.
And so to be clear, where do you specify the name you want?
That is, Rob, if you could go back up a couple of levels. Well, in your history, not up on the screen.
Oh.
Right, yeah. BIOS.
Yeah, go back to BIOS and role provided.
Yeah, okay. So the point is you'd edit the attribute on that for the config. Yeah.
And then just add in more of what you want, and that shows up properly in the UI as just a text box that you can type in things.
Right. And it's a list, right? Or do you want one?
Yeah. It's a list.
Okay. So it'll compose putting on top of previous values kind of thing?
Yeah. And if you, and I don't warn or give any warnings if you choose ones that don't overlap. It's just the last one wins.
Yeah, okay. That's cool.
It's conflicting settings.
Cool. Does it pay attention to already applied parents?
Yes, it does, but we'd have to actually look at the code for that.
Well, I was just worried that if I put like UFI and virtualization, does default get reapplied on top of the UFI?
No, it doesn't.
Good. Okay. I didn't think it did, but
they compose together. But in the process of actually applying the attributes, if I don't need to change a setting, I don't. I just filter out all the ones that are already at we want, and so the actual job that gets pushed in to configure it only touches the ones we care about, only touches the ones that we need to change.
Okay. Cool.
So as a side effect, default has to list all of the BIOS settings if we want to manage them. If it's not listed in default, then we don't have any. Then we won't control what it is.
Right. Okay. Cool. Very cool. Is this how the RAID will work too?
Well, the RAID already has something that's functional. It's not as elegant as this, though. Partially because I haven't taken the time to make it, so.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I know you can inject the hash that you want and stuff like that, but just wondering.
Yeah, that's. I'd need to add a couple of additional concepts to. I'd need to expose a couple more things at the higher level in the RAID stuff, like expose the concept of all the otherwise unused drives.
Right.
And some notion of ordering.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
That's really neat. So you could literally change the machine's deployment and then have the BIOS set for a Ceph cluster as opposed to a compute cluster, or switch it to. You actually could target your BIOS configurations and then put it in the right deployment and have it automatically fixed.
Not all at once. We haven't written the magic that would let that happen all in the background. But if you were programmatically building out deployments via the API, you could pretty easily do that.
Right. You'd have to tell the machine to re-image itself, basically, back to the sledgehammer cycle.
No, not actually for BIOS. If you change BIOS settings and then reapply it, it doesn't care how you're booted into because it doesn't need to talk to Sledgehammer at all to do anything.
Oh, so it does it out of band?
Yes.
Yes.
Does it through the WSBand iDrive.
Yeah. It does it out of band, and it will, once it's finished doing what it needs to do, it'll ask the node to reboot. Unless you're in Sledgehammer, in which case it'll just flat out, you're rebooting right now and, power cycle the node.
Wow.
But all of that's actually in code and not configurable through templates right now.
That's serious operational mojo. I'm still whippling through. I know it, but sometimes when you sit down and think through the operational impact of what that means from an operator's life and what type of work you could do in helping manage a deployment from either provisioning or reprovisioning perspective, it's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of how to explain it. I've been trying to add sets to capture the. I think it's going to take more time and discussion with you to unwind some of the implications of what we can do.
Yeah. I mean, the fun part will be adding this stuff for other types of nodes.
Right. How hard do you think that it would be?
Not terribly with the framework that I have laid out. All that you really have to care about, or all that you really have to implement in the node or in the logic inside the framework, is how to get the list of attributes that you can set and how to set the attributes.
Okay. Friggin' awesome. Cool. That's got those mini servers that might be. I don't know if they're a worthwhile target for that.
I mean, adding support, for instance, for Power Edge C would be pretty trivial. Well, it's not trivial, but I wouldn't have to make any changes to the core framework to make that happen. Other gear, it'd be mainly just a matter of reading through all their documentation and doing the right thing.
Okay. I know somebody who's interested in Power Edge. See if they're still interested. Wow,
Yeah. And for the Power Edge R gear, the driver itself actually does validate everything that you put in. So if you put in a setting that isn't valid for a given BIOS setting, it will error out and fail early and tell you what failed. I think right now it tells you what failed in the production.log, but so that'll need to be changed. But
sorry, at least you're getting.
Tries to be smart about validating attributes.
Oh, it doesn't bubble it up to the node role failure %?
I'm working out the logistics of logging stuff from jigs that aren't run as an external process that I can capture all the output from.
Okay.
I need some reasonable logging mechanism for that. Right now I'm doing something totally ad hoc for the BIOS stuff.
Cool. All right, Greg, that's a hard act to follow. You want to talk about packaging?
No, it's not. I mean, I got nothing at that level. I have more questions.
Oh, okay. Then let's not change the topic. Keep going.
It's really more of a, as we go forward, we're finding that it's kind of hard for people to try this because either they don't know Docker or they don't. There's all the sets of things that we're going through. And so as part of that, one of the other aspects of it is, how do we really want to deploy this in an initial, quote, production capable, right? Not HA necessarily, but at least production capable deployment. And that led to questions of, okay, so if we're going to build packages, right, which seems like a reasonable way to distribute the thing. RPMs, debs, other, right? I mean, RPMs make sense because we run on 6.5 right now kind of cleanly. We may run in other things, but the thought was to do, initial support of 6.5 and build RPMs for that, and then go from there as need be.
Honestly, my preferred method of distributing things for use in production like that would probably be to distribute it as a VM image more than anything else.
As a which image?
VM, like something you could import into VMware or run inside of KVM or on VirtualBox or whatever.
Yeah.
Why do you think that that's a preference?
Because then trying it out as a matter of putting a virtual image into ESX and booting it.
Do you have networking concerns from that perspective?
Well,
I have networking concerns no matter what deployment method we're using. There are always networking concerns.
Yeah, I guess my concern with that is, do these people have that? And I don't know yet. Consistently.
Well, if we're going to talk about these people, you need to talk about specifics more than general things.
But hold on.
I mean, just for general thinking around, I think, telling someone that, hey, boot this image in VirtualBox is not a very big barrier to entry. And ditto for, running it as, boot this into an ESX cluster that has the connectivity to the machines that you want to manage.
And both of those can do VHDs. So how would you do the install inside of that virtual image?
What do you mean, how would I do the install?
From that perspective, you're already talking about a vagrant build, right? Vagrant would be the simplest thing. Would not be the simplest, but Vagrant would be a fast way to do that if you had an RPM.
No,
well,
what I do is I have this.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I would do, I have a piece of code called KVM admin that already knows how to spin up admin nodes in KVM, and I would modify it so that it doesn't delete the hard drive at the end of the run, and just have KVM admin run bootstrap.sh instead of production.sh. And Bootstrap will get all the bits in place that are necessary for everything to run. And then once that image is finished, translate it into whatever image file we want to distribute it as, VHD, QCOW2, VMDKs, whatever. And that'd pretty much be that.
That way, you'd actually have it's a repeatable smoke test from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Greg. That builds the RPM actually. It's built. You're sort of getting both either way.
Well, it doesn't build the RPM actually right now.
No, it doesn't do any of that.
Trees over entirely.
Oh.
And then runs Bootstrap to install all the other prerequisites.
Right, and then tell them to edit production.sh and then run it.
And in the future, don't edit production.sh, edit the production.json or whatever.
Right.
And then run. Yeah.
Ooh. So one of the things you would do is move the config settings out of production.sh into a JSON file. That makes tons of sense.
Production.sh was only ever intended as a dirty hack to make my life easier.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I've started to because I've started to create RPMs and then start trying to see how easy it is to split out the components from Bootstrap. So that you could have a database and a core and a provisioner that are all separate. Now you bring them up all in the same box in this case, but.
Right, but you're getting them out of the container.
Yeah.
So you're basically creating all those services on one VM. That VM can then be sized appropriately for your environment. Does that address the persistence and the ease of use questions?
Yeah, once it's running on a VM instead of inside of a Docker container, it's persistent.
Right.
The only reason it's not persistent right now is because we put most of the stuff on a Docker container, so it gets thrown away whenever the Docker container exits.
Which is the question I had for you about creating a snapshot tagging. We sort of went down this path before. I did it in a very hokey way because I actually just created a VM and snapshotted it. How would you handle updating the code in this case, Victor?
Right now,
if say we use KVM admin to build a PhD that we get portable, at that point it's whatever version. Yeah.
Right now, I'd handle it with git pull.
And then just stop the Crowbar service and restart.
Yep.
Does that include a database migration? Does it run the reg tools? No, it probably doesn't.
That does not include database migrations right now.
I mean, if you're doing an upgrade, it's easy enough to know whether or not.
But you have to throw, rake db migrate in that path too.
Probably worth doing. Safety. And then, we already have the StackForge stuff, so it'd be easy enough to upload a proven PhD to StackForge. People could download that, boot and run.
I only caught about half what you said there.
Oh, sorry, I moved away from forgot I wasn't my phone mic. So yeah, we could upload the disk. Yeah, we do have to document the networking. Networking is a pain in Docker too, so there's no inner loss there.
Networking is always a pain. Always.
Yes, that's true. I'm happy. It's worth doing a test run on it. I think we'll probably have better luck with that than we will with people doing Docker containers. And does that image do a git clone, or does it actually copy the files?
It copies the entire tree, and that includes all the git metadata, which means that sanitization needed. To strip out my remote.
Right, that would be
But that's easy enough to do.
Right, since Git's already there. It sounds reasonable to me. Greg, is that easier than what you were thinking?
In the short term, it is easier. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how it plays, but
yeah,
I'm still concerned. Well, it's easier now. Eventually, we'll need to split the components out so we can run them separately. I'm still trying to, in the process of this, think about how we would do cobbler replacement. And so part of some of my separation work was around the ability to try and replace cobbler easier too.
Right. That's the other half of this conversation, which is to talk about the foot in the door aspect for an operator. I don't want to segue to that unless we're ready. We don't have much time left, so I'm tempted to hold that. I'm not. I know Victor and I are both out next week. I would hope you guys would go through the planning list anyway. So let me launch into this very briefly, and we can tee it up for a future conversation. The thing I'm thinking about is if somebody wants to try Crowbar and experience this awesomeness that we're doing with RAID and BIOS and networking and stuff like that, first thing they have to do is shut off their Cobbler server. To do it, that's where the first line of change is going to be. Seems to me. And part of what I think we need to be able to do is have a very specific, here's how you use this Cobbler VM to replace, this Crowbar VM to replace your Docker, my goodness, I'm losing all my words. This is how you take your Crowbar virtual machine and turn off your Cobbler service without having any downtime or impact in operations. You can just do a swap out, and then you're good, right? Then we can.
You're applying a lot of engineering work to make that happen.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out what that would look like, because that to me is the first path that people are going to need to take. That's the first step for most.
I really doubt it.
Why?
If they want to just try out Crowbar, they're going to do it in a greenfield environment. They are not going to replace Cobbler in production. That's insane.
Okay. Let's say
Mostly
they like
because
it in a greenfield. What do they do it to get it into production?
Clone or figure out how to. Well, we need to have a path that would let us import everything that Cobbler knows about all of the nodes, translate them into Crowbar's idiom, and take over management from there. But that step 2 is a bit of a doozy.
Do we have to import the Cobbler metadata?
If you want to replace Cobbler in a production environment, yes, you have to import the Cobbler metadata. You have to import everything Cobbler knows about the nodes.
Well, and you have to be able to do things like turn off DHCP. You have to be able to have Crowbar not do DHCP, stuff like that. But
why shouldn't it? If you're turning off Cobbler does use DHCP, doesn't it?
It uses somebody's DHCP server, not necessarily its.
I thought it used it then.
No, it merely points it as a next server thing.
So in that case, you would replace, you would take down DHCP and Cobbler. You'd have to, right? That might be. So this is exactly the.
The point is, you need a story for it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you need an epic for this. This is not a bang it out over a couple of weeks thing.
I don't expect it to be. I'm trying to figure out what it is, and if because I do think that that's the next step in this is. All right. Hey, I tested Crowbar. It looks great. Now I want to put it in my data center. I've already got Cobbler. How do I do that? Right. And if you're like, well, it's only good for greenfield, I think you've got a much harder road than if you can say, look, we'll take over your Cobbler stuff. Here's the steps.
I I agree with that as the goal, but going out and telling people right now that we're going to take over your Cobbler for you is madness. Because we don't do that.
Sure. I'm trying to figure out what it would take to do it. Before I get to tell people how to do it. But I do think that we need it's the number one tool that does this type of work, and where we do end up in a do-it-yourself environment, definitely needing to place it to do our magic. I don't see, unless you see a way to incorporate or drive Cobbler from Crowbar, which would be a very acceptable alternative.
Yeah, driving Cobbler from Crowbar wouldn't be that big of a deal. I mean, we just use it as a drop-in replacement for our current provisioner. If we wanted to do that.
Well, that would probably eliminate a barrier to entry in a significant way. So we should explore that as the alternative path. You still have to pull in the data so Crowbar knows what Cobbler does. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just do new node.
Insert more explanation required here.
Why? This is
and
my
that's pretty
job.
much
My job is to bring these things up, so we can figure out what we need to get data about. All right. Actually, that was very productive from my perspective on opening a conversation and figuring out eliminating the unknown unknowns. Sorry to go all Rumsfeld on you.
I think we are out of time.
We are out of time. All right, this was a great call. Thank you, everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties getting us running. Oh, I'll show you at least beautiful. It's done.
Yay!
Yeah. Sometimes it just friggin' works. That's all you can say about it. I think that's the theme for the day. It just friggin' works. All right, everybody. Thank you. I'll end on that note. Talk to y'all in 2 weeks. Bye.
Okay, bye.